Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Nabila Ananda Khairia. I'm from Group 5. On this opportunity, we will discuss about Chapter 11, the problem-based learning. As the first presented host of my explanation, so let's check it out. Okay, the first one, explanation about chapter objective. This chapter describes about the problem-based learning model, including its history and step. So, the next, communicate application and benefit of the problem-based learning model and learn what it might look like in classroom. And the next, explanation about list ways to implement and plan for teaching with the problem-based learning model. And the next, articulate how the problem-based learning model might enable differentiated instruction and support diverse learners. And the last explanation about describe how technology can change teaching with the problem-based learning. Okay, the next, introduction. Problem-based learning, a powerful and useful learning model that is the subject of this chapter. Problem-based learning motivates students to apply what they already know and inspire them to gain new knowledge by presenting the problem they have interest in solving. Apart from promoting learning related to academic content standard, problem-based learning provides opportunity for students to develop problem-solving competency and including how to design strategy to identify glue analysis from the problem or organization and solve the problem or application synthesis. As the opening scenario suggests, the problem-based learning model allows students to apply knowledge in a proposal way and see the relevance of what is happening in the school to the outside world. Okay, the next. What is the problem-based learning model? Problem-based learning model is an active learning model that allows students to learn and hone problem-solving skills and develop competency with standard of academic content and realize the relevance of applying content area learning for particular purpose. And this is not like in other learning experiences in which students gradually develop skill and knowledge that can be applied to solve a problem later. In the problem-based learning model, students start with the problem. And the next, a problem. A problem is a question or problem that has one or more solution. And through process problem solving, students develop content knowledge and skill, including many sensory skill. This model emphasizes real-world application of academic knowledge and by bringing the classroom and real-world learning. It also supports student development transferable problem-solving skill inside and outside the classroom. Okay, the next, what are the history and origins of the problem-based learning model? The problem-based learning berasal dari pertama kali diterapkan pada medical education pada tahun 1950, yang dimana Universitas Case Western Reserve, utamanya Fakultas Kedokteran, menyiapkan dokter yang dibutuhkan dengan cara mendukung kemampuan siswa untuk menerapkan keterampilan dan pengetahuan profesional di dunia nyata dengan melalui masalah. Metodologi ini akhirnya disebut pembelajaran berbasis masalah, secara resmi diadopsi sebagai pendekatan pedagogis di Kanada di tahun selanjutnya untuk mempromosikan kemampuan siswa juga. Setelah sukses penerapannya pada medical education, kemudian di sekitaran tahun 1974, problem based learning model ini kemudian diterapkan pada ilmu sains atau significant knowledge, yang dimana untuk menerapkan ilmu pengetahuan ilmiah, mereka menggunakan situasi klinis yang berasal dari masalah. Pendekatan dominan untuk belajar di berbagai institusi pendidikan tinggi di seluruh dunia, termasuk universitas universitas yang ada di Belanda dan Universitas Gajah Mada yang ada di Indonesia. Dan kemudian setelah sukses penerapannya pada ilmu sains, problem based learning model ini kemudian resmi diterapkan pada pembelajaran yang akan diterapkan pada siswa, yang dimana dikarenakan problem based learning model harusness greater power problem based learning methodology is more focused and dense. The use of the problem based learning model does not require the implementation of the problem based learning methodology throughout the institution or for a long period of time. In addition, it does not require a complete curriculum overhaul. It can be used in more limited, sporadic and short-term way. Jadi di sini metodologi pembelajaran berbasis masalah memanfaatkan kekuatan yang lebih besar berbasis masalah, yang dimana pembelajaran menjadi lebih fokus dan lebih padat. Penggunaan model problem based learning ini juga tidak memerlukan implementasi jangka panjang seperti model pembelajaran lainnya. Selain itu, penerapan model pembelajaran seperti ini tidak memerlukan perombakan kurikulum secara menyeluruh, karena model pembelajaran seperti ini bisa langsung menyesuaikan dengan model pembelajaran yang digunakan sebelumnya. Okay, the next example problem based learning versus project based learning. Problem-based learning emphasizes applying existing skill and knowledge. Main motivation is solving a problem and may or not involve completing a project. Sementara project-based learning emphasizes developing new skill and knowledge. The main motivation for project-based learning is completing a project and may or may not involve solving a problem. And the next, when should the problem-based learning model be applied and why? And yeah, so based learning model might the best applied the problem-based learning because problem-based learning is more effective for teaching students how to solve authentic problem, developing critical thinking, cooperative and social skill, and for steering self-direction learning. The following session discuss what teachers should use the problem-based learning model to accomplish. And the first one, solve authentic problem. Many students need to be taught how to solve problem. Problem-based learning provides a structural, procedural approach to teaching students how to solve the problem. And the next, develop critical thinking, cooperative and social skill. Problem-based learning helps students develop this skill because it focuses on problem solving. Through problem solving, developing strategies to solve problem, implementing proposed strategy and analysis strategy, implementation through discuss and evaluation the result. And the next, teach students to be self-direction learners. The first one, working independently, requires many competencies, including the ability to define one's study and see oneself as able to work independently and stay on task, resolve careful and advocate for oneself and self-motivation and beginning one progress and work. And the last content, connect curriculum to the real world. This connection, the real world problem is evident in all scenarios presented in this chapter. By following the problem-based learning model, teachers can make situations outside the classroom both relevant and meaningful learning. Okay, I think enough. Continue will be continued by my group friends. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih atas kesempatan yang telah diberikan. Perkenalkan, nama saya Mutiara. Saya sebagai pemateri kedua. Di sini saya akan menjelaskan tentang what are the steps in the problem based learning model. Dan the problem based learning model consists of 4 major phases or steps. The second one is present or identify the problem. The second one is develop a plan for solving the problem. And the third one is implement the plan for solving. And the last one is evaluate the implementation plan results. In this, I will explain one by one. Step 1, present or identify the problem. The goal of the first step in the problem-based learning model is for students to learn about and examine the problem. Either the teacher presents the problem or students identify it based on information introduced by the teacher. Whether a teacher presents the problem or student identify it, the teachers employing the problem-based learning model will also need to complete several logistical steps before proceeding to the subsequent phases of the model. The second one is step 2, develop a plan for solving the problem. In these phases, the students use the information, examine the previous phases or gather elsewhere to form a plan of action for solving the problem. As students develop this plan, teachers need to scaffold students' progress, review their progress, and monitor their interaction to ensure that the groups work together towards the common goal of developing a plan to solve the problem. And the third one is step 3, implement the plan for solving the problem. During the implementation phases of the problem-based learning model, students test out the plan developed in the previous phases. In some cases, they will actually implement the plan proposed, as in scenario 11-1, where plan for ordering pizza for a pizza party is implemented. In other cases, such as in scenarios 11-2 and 11-3, the actual implementation of the plan may not take place for a while, as it may involve other stakeholders, or because the problem is hypothetical one. And the last step is evaluate the implementation plan results. This is the final phases of the problem-based learning model. Involves evaluation of the implementation plan developed to solve the problem. Here, students examine the plan they devise and its implementation to determine its effectiveness and or accuracy. The evaluation should take into account that the nature of the problem, based learning model is for students to examine problems that have multiple possible solutions, and also therefore teachers should allow sufficient time for students to reflect on, discuss, and assess the outcome. Next, I will explain about what does the problem-based learning model look like in the classroom. There are many different ways in which the problem-based learning model might be implemented. The scenarios in this section provide three different ways in which the model might be employed in different grade levels and contexts. The first is scenario 11 to 1. The marble jar for good behavior in Vanessa Wong's kindergarten class was full, so her students were going to be planning a pizza party. Vanessa knew that managing a problem-based learning media or model lesson as a whole group would be difficult to orchestrate with of classes of 24 very enthusiastic kindergartners. However, she knew that they would be motivated and could work hard to devise a reasonable plan for ordering pizza with her help. And the second one is scenario 11 to 2. Nada Kumar, principal or Russell Carson Middle School, knew that school could do a better job with recycling and conserving energy. With going green, the school's efforts to recycle paper were not enough. The school had to do more. So at the next school-wide assembly, she announced that going green problem-based learning challenge. Teams of students from each grade level would complete as they worked together to figure out ways the school could go green. So she had already asked several people from the community to judge the competition. Winners would be announced on Earth Day. And the last scenario is 11 to 3. For weeks, Joanna Middleton's 11th grade Spanish class had been conferencing, emailing, and even texting with a group of students in San Andres, Colombia. And the wonderful culture exchange had all started with her brother's girlfriend, Lucero, an English teacher at the local high school. Lucero thought it would be a great idea for her students to communicate with Joanna's students to practice English and learn about what it's like the being a teen in the United States. In turn, Joanna's students would practice speaking Spanish and learn about teens' lives on the small Colombian island. And then next, what does the scenario illustrate? These scenarios share three different ways in which the problem-based learning model might be implemented with students from different grade levels and using different real-world problems. Although the problems the students tackle are unique, they show how the different steps of the problem-based learning model might be implemented in a variety of ways. These scenarios also demonstrate the roles of both students and teachers as they work through the problem-based learning model lesson. I think that's all my explanation. Thank you so much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, I will continue our material, planning for teaching with the problem-based learning model. As with any other model of teaching, effective planning for teaching a problem-based learning lesson involves preparation no matter how open-ended the problem. Next, determine grouping of students. Therefore, teachers should determine how they want to divide the students into groups, like heterogeneous or homogeneous groups, teacher or student selected, and so on, and the size of the group themselves. Next, figure out time allocation. Therefore, students must have sufficient time to think, exchange ideas, critique ideas, develop a solution to a problem, and evaluate its success. And next, develop activities to scaffold learning. Scaffolding of student learning and analysis while working through a problem-based learning lesson is vital to its success. Next, monitor and assess group and individual progress, interaction, and learning. When planning to teach a problem-based learning lesson, teachers should develop strategies for monitoring and assessing group and individual student progress, interaction, and learning. Next, differentiating instruction with the problem-based learning model. Problem-based learning can be very open-ended, structured in different ways for different students, and incorporate more or less teacher scaffolding and assistance. Next, content. Students may also access content in a variety of ways, and how they do so will be determined largely by the plan they aim to devise and the time and resources they will have to complete the problem-based learning lessons. Next, process. Teachers can differentiate the process of a problem-based learning lesson by varying the makeup of groups in which students work the progress through the different phases of the lessons. And the next, product. The product or deliverable students create in these scenarios will probably vary in their substance and form too.
Hai, saya Nanda Triana sebagai pemateri keempat akan menjelaskan tentang the benefits of applying the problem-based learning model and the value that technology add to the problem-based learning model. And first of all, I will explain about the benefit of applying the problem-based learning model. Jadi, manfaat problem-based learning itu ada 5, dan yang pertama yaitu to promote 21st century skills. So, the 21st century is marked by using information and thinking to solve problems. And in problem-based learning, students are required to study about how to focus on atau memusatkan perhatian pada suatu masalah, arrange a plan to solve it, learn to analyze problem, know a problem-solving plan, monitor how their plan are executed, atau bagaimana menjelaskan rencana mereka, dan mengevaluasi pengimplementasiannya. Dan hal itu dilakukan agar mereka juga dapat ikut untuk mengembangkan or develop and promote skill in the 21st century. The second benefits is student understanding of the complexity of real-world problems, atau menumbuhkan pemahaman siswa tentang kompleksitas masalah dunia nyata. And as we know that problems in the real world are very complex, diverse, and confusing. Dan dengan adanya model pembelajaran berbasis masalah yang berfokus pada pemecahan masalah yang otentik dan menarik seperti ini, memungkinkan siswa dapat menganalisis dan bergulat dengan kompleksitas masalah yang mungkin benar-benar mereka hadapi di dunia nyata atau di luar sekolah. Dan mereka mungkin juga dapat mengembangkan solusi untuk masalah tersebut. Manfaat yang ketiga yaitu to promote long-term retention. So, this learning model has been shown to promote long-term retention of student understanding, dan karena hal ini dikarenakan adanya fakta that this learning model focus on actual problem, and that focus makes problem real, contextual, and meaningful for students. Konteks pembelajaran pada model ini mendukung pemahaman isi, perumusan solusi, membangun pengetahuan sebelumnya, membuat koneksi ke pengetahuan konten lain, dan melihat hubungan antar konten. The fourth benefit is motivate student to learn. Problem-based learning help motivate a student in several ways. First, designing learning experience around problem solving yang merangsang mental, di mana hal ini seringkali menyulut rasa keingintahuan siswa.
And second, the problem itself can act as a hook or pengait. Karena sifat masalah dunia nyata, siswa sering melihat relevansi dalam pengalaman pembelajaran karena memiliki aplikasi praktis untuk kehidupan yang sering hilang pada buku teks. Manfaat yang kelima atau yang terakhir yaitu to activate prior knowledge atau mengaktifkan pengetahuan sebelumnya. So, in this learning model, students are required to active their previous knowledge and experience in order to assist them in determining and solving problems that they will face later. So those were the 5 benefits of the problem-based learning model. And now, I will explain about the value that technology adds to the problem-based learning model. So the existence of technology can play an integral role in the planning, implementation, and assessment of lessons that incorporate problem-based learning. Berbagai perangkat teknologi dapat membantu guru dalam merencanakan untuk menggunakan dan menilai pembelajaran siswa dalam model pembelajaran berbasis masalah, serta membantu guru dalam menerapkan model tersebut. Okay, first of all, the role of technology can be seen in lesson planning, di mana pada research potential problems and resource, kita dapat menghasilkan or generate ideas that focus on learning in problem-based learning. Dan guru dapat melakukan penelitian dengan menggunakan search engine atau direktori seperti Google, Yahoo, or Docpile. And using the internet to prepare the problem-based learning dapat menghasilkan serangkaian sumber daya yang lebih kaya untuk pelajaran. Selain menggunakan internet untuk mencari sumber daya untuk digunakan selama pelajaran, guru mungkin juga dapat menemukan rencana pembelajaran berbasis masalah yang menarik secara online yang mungkin ingin mereka terapkan atau ingin mereka modifikasi. Selanjutnya, untuk membuat material to scaffold learning, a teacher can use word processing and concept mapping tools to develop materials untuk bertanya dan mendukung siswa saat mereka bekerja melalui fase yang berbeda dari model pembelajaran berbasis masalah. The next is the role of technology at the implementation stage, di mana saat kita menyusun ataupun mendokumentasikan pada pengembangan rencana untuk memecahkan masalah, guru dapat meminta siswa untuk menggunakan blog, database, spreadsheet, perangkat lunak, pengolah kata, situs web, ataupun wiki. However, teachers should also carefully to select the technology to ensure that whether it is compatible with the software and hardware currently being used by students or not. And on data analysis, siswa dapat memanfaatkan teknologi untuk melakukan analisis seperti menggunakan alat spreadsheet atau program database ataupun alat yang lainnya. The next is the role of technology at the assessment stage. Saat melakukan conduct formative and summative assessment, guru mungkin dapat menggunakan blog bagi siswa untuk mendokumentasikan dan berbagi pembelajaran mereka yang sedang berlangsung dan sebagai alat refleksi. Dan seperti biasa, alat survei itu berguna untuk penilaian formatif. And when we want to document atau mendokumentasikan student understanding, then we can use digital audio and video to capture student understanding during the problem-based learning model phase. The last one is when we want to give individual, peer, and group evaluation, maka guru dapat menggunakan Google Document atau alat survei online untuk dapat membuat rubik formulir tempat siswa memasukkan umpan balik mereka. Dan adanya penggunaan sistem respon audience, yaitu clickers, memungkinkan siswa untuk memilih secara anonim pada rencana terbaik yang diterapkan untuk memecahkan masalah. And maybe that's enough from me. Bagian selanjutnya akan dijelaskan oleh rekan saya. Thank you.
Problem-based learning model lesson plan example. Lesson sample. The lesson of that follow is an example of the problem-based learning model figure. 11.6 provides an outline of the lesson's different steps. Lesson context. Grade levels. 6. Content area. Math. physical teaching environment. This lesson will be taught in the regular classroom. Application of revised Bloom taxonomy. Student moves from the lower level of the received Bloom taxonomy to higher level. Outline the problem-based learning model lesson step. Problem-based learning model step: present or identify the problem-based learning model lesson. The teacher parents the problem, the need to replace the carpet in the aftercare room. Lesson plan goals: student will be able to calculate the area rectangular space, then use this information to solve the problem carpeting space. Objective: during the course of the lesson, student will do the following: identify the problem in the real world situation involving area, successfully implement plan solving area problems independently, use data to make decisions to solve real world problems. Estimate time: 50 minutes periods. Material needed: tape measure, pencil, paper, calculators, spreadsheet program, graph paper. Prerequisite skills: student must understand the concept of area, how to measure area, the niche fruit, and how to calculate the area of real object. They must also be able to frame story problem on develop plans for solving them. Lesson produce. Motivation: explain the future that knowledge of an area applied to solve the problem of how much carpet is needed, that then used to make decision about the best carpet from the target room. Inform student that for 3 class periods that will be work to solve real world problem related by area by applying the problem-based learning model of teaching. Differentiation strategies for the problem-based learning model lesson. Content: one method of differentiating in the lesson will be used to media tools and communicate the problem must be solved. Using a tool like the digital whiteboard will support communication of the problem of visual format. Interior design software called help students visualize the room and its dimension and show how different piece and cutting of the carpet fit in the room. When the teacher presents the challenge of calculating the area of the room in questions and demonstrating how carpet come in specific with variable light, it will be helpful to use visual material to illustrate this problem more clearly. Process: on way to differentiate the learning process in this lesson will be to give students different tools to work with while calculating area depending on their readiness. Some students might use calculator or spreadsheet, and others might still compute by hand. Product: differentiating of the learning project in this lesson might be done by giving students a choice for how they will develop and present their plans. Completion of the worksheet might make sense for some learners how needed structure. Open-ended method like using a concept mapping tool to display problem-solving steps could be a good option for other learners. Students might also be encouraged to choose their own best method for displaying the decision they made with regard to their plans. I think that's all from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.